And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today, we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough, as well as across New York City. Coming up on today's show, we'll go front and center discussing a recent study focused on increased COVID-19 vaccine distribution in minority communities. Afterwards, we'll learn what Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center is doing to help Bronx residents with cancer screening as well as care. Later on in the show, we'll speak with one brand on how they are providing support for service members and their families. And we'll also learn about an exhibit highlighting a global story through a local lens. And then finally, we'll discuss how the Universal Hip Hop Museum is preserving the history and impact of hip hop. We'll give you a little bit more later on in the show. We encourage you now to stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open. I am Daren Jaime. We thank you for joining us. Open is seen in the Bronx and across New York City. We want to take the time now to welcome our viewers on Manhattan Neighborhood Network as Open is being broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. You can also stay connected to us on all of our social media platforms at BronxNet TV and, of course, our website at bronxnet.org. A lot has been going on through the course of the past week. We'll take you through a couple of things with our Bronx updates. We start off with state news. New York State is rolling out a novel strategy to screen applicants for gun permits. People seeking gun permits will, or I should say concealed carry handguns, will be required to hand over their social media accounts for a review of their, quote, character and conduct. Under the law, applicants have to provide local officials with a list of current and former social media accounts from the previous 3 years. The law will also require applicants to undergo hours of safety training to prove if they're proficient at shooting, providing 4 character references, and sit for in-person interviews. The new requirement will take effect in September. Well, in other news, the Bronx Park East Farmers Market is officially open, and our BronxNet reporter Brittany Schuyler Albane brings us all the details.
Get your body and mind feeling right with produce, protein, and plants from the Bronx Park East Farmers Market. After a successful inaugural year, the Farmers Market now includes community-supported agriculture.
Today we are starting with our Farmers Market for the second month, where we are working with a farmer locally growing produce in Chester, New York, called Grandpa Farms.
In a borough that sees an alarming number of poor health outcomes, the market's primary goal is to promote wellness initiatives and raise awareness about the correlation between poor diets and health issues, thus the all-natural lineup of vendors.
What you put into your body helps you form a natural, clear way of living, healthy way of living and speaking and honoring, your body.
Of course, eating organic doesn't come cheap, and the vendors understand that, which is why they accept all forms of benefits.
If you have SNAP, or if you have the Health Bucks or WICS or the Senior Farmers Market Discount Program, we support those programs to allow all to have access to natural food.
The Bronx Park East Farmers Market runs from June 5th to October 30th in front of the Brady Playground. Reporting for BronxNet, Brittany Schuyler Albane.
And thank you, Brittany. That's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We want you to stay with us. We're not out of show. Open is just beginning to get rolling right after this. And welcome back to the show. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, New York-Presbyterian increased vaccine distribution among Black and Hispanic individuals in Upper Manhattan through targeted community outreach. Now, this effort led to more than 100,000 people being vaccinated. Joining us now and sharing more details is the Associate Medical Director at New York-Presbyterian, Herman Denny Farrell Jr. Community Health Center, and also the Assistant Professor of Columbia University, Baumel-Schwartz College of Physicians and Surgeons, Dr. Daniela Diaz. And Dr. Diaz, good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
100,000 people, that's a good number. Talk to us about how you got there.
It sure is. It was a large effort through the entire enterprise of New York-Presbyterian, where we really wanted this to be a priority. Vaccines had just come out, and we knew how important it was to improving the trajectory of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we really put all of the resources of the hospital that we could behind this effort to make sure we could vaccinate as many people as possible, particularly in our communities.
And when we talk about our communities, we know that in communities of color, they were the largest hit in New York City and across the nation. And sometimes, well, when I go back into history, initially, a lot of people didn't recognize how damaging this virus was and how fatal this virus was. But then the urgency became for awareness, for letting people know, for getting out there and making sure that people not only got tested, but were also able to get the vaccination. What steps did you take in order to really make this come about?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. The severity of the disease was not initially recognized. And then with time, we saw it was much more devastating than expected, but, maybe not surprisingly, because this often happens in healthcare, even more devastating to communities of color than to other communities who were, also very much affected. So we knew how important vaccinations were, but also knew that we needed to particularly target those people who were struggling the most or being affected the most by the disease. So we put together two interventions that we found to be the most useful in helping reach communities near where our hospital is, communities Hispanic and Black communities in particular. I can tell a little bit about those major two interventions. And the first was to prioritize access to appointments for people who live in our target zip codes, who are groups that often don't have as much access to care. So making sure that that those people really did have the access to get the appointments for vaccines if they wanted them. The second part you mentioned, there was a lot of issues around hesitancy. So we quickly saw that access was not enough. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of distrust of healthcare in general. So the second part that we really needed to focus on was education and comfort and combating misinformation, which is so prevalent now. So the way we found that was extremely effective in getting people vaccinated, or particularly people of color vaccinated, was to work with already existing community organizations. So faith-based organizations, other community NGOs, et cetera, they already have connections with community members and they already have trust with community members. So really being able to reach in a more targeted way people from people that they are already familiar with was extremely successful.
Yeah, you led into my question about awareness, because a lot of people did have vaccine hesitancy, particularly in communities of color. How much was it of a benefit to have persons who look like, sound like, to be able to convey that message to those in communities of color to get them in for both testing and vaccination?
I mean, it's really invaluable. You'll see that people we found that the most convincing part to patients, we present science and data and combat misinformation. But the big question people have is, did you get vaccinated? And so particularly me as a woman of color, that will speak to, okay, someone like me was vaccinated. Okay, I feel more comfortable. And not only me, they don't know me, but particularly, did my neighbors get vaccinated? Did my family members get vaccinated? So really having people who you identify with feeling comfortable getting the vaccine, seeing that they were okay after they got the vaccine, was one of the key motivators for many people.
And we talk about the Latino community. Many people were having to deal with the whole language barrier issue. How did you deal with the language barrier issue, getting that word out to a community that is definitely in need, but at the same time, still trying to navigate, really some tough waters?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, luckily for us, one of our major, we have several hospitals within the enterprise. One of them is in the heart of Washington Heights. So working with a largely Spanish speaking population is something that we are very familiar with. So we knew from before we opened, all of our materials needed to be translated in English and Spanish. We had vaccinators, providers, myself, who are fluent in Spanish, who can, help patients navigate the system. But we saw that we needed to kind of increase those efforts. So while, during the time that the site was open, we added full-time, several in-person translators, as well as virtual translators for languages that we are less commonly seeing, but still, need to be able to help people, because we can't provide healthcare if you can't understand what you're getting. So it is an extremely key part to make sure that you can communicate with patients in a language they understand and in a way that they understand.
You gave me a little bit of my next question, but you're talking about some statistics here. 12% of appointments that you had made through community outreach were Black patients, and then also 58% of appointments were through Hispanic patients as well. This is a great number. I think it needs to be replicated across, that we would have been able to see more and more people be able to take advantage. What would be the quote unquote secret sauce, if you will, to be able to see more people in communities of color to get them across the finish line?
Yeah, so it's about finding the communities where these patients exist, really knowing where you're going to target your efforts. Because, when things go out to all of New York City, you're going to get a mixed population that reflects all of New York City. But if you really want to focus on Hispanic patients, Black patients, you want to focus on areas where those populations make up a higher proportion of the people who live there. And then trying to understand the communities. What are the faith-based organizations that they go to? What are the community, the strong agencies that have ties to the community, and work with them to get hyper local and really focused on the people you are trying to reach.
And for you, looking back, if you had to do some things over, is there something that sticks out of your mind? Maybe we could do something a little different?
It was challenging. I think what was difficult was that all of the science and all of the data was moving so quickly. I think that, I wish that we had the capacity to create correct information with the same catchiness that misinformation spreads. And, I think as a hospital, we have a wonderful, PR department and all of that, but people who spread misinformation just have such a knack for making it stick. You tell someone that a vaccine is going to make them infertile, that is something they will never forget, no matter how wrong it is. And there's, I can say there's tons of evidence saying that that's not true. There's no evidence to support that, but it's just not quite as catchy. And so I wish that we could have identified, or that we can, even going forward, identify how to make real information stick and as appealing and as eye-catching as misinformation. I think that would have really gone a long way.
Yeah, it certainly created a more uphill battle for you, but I know that the truth be told, you were able to still get to the top of the mountain. Dr. Daniela Diaz, thank you so much for being with us, and congratulations on the great work that you did. All righty. We want our viewers to know if you want more information, don't hesitate. Visit the website at nyp.org, then follow them also on social media, Instagram and Twitter at NYP Hospital. We got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open is continuing right after this.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at bronxnet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
To the world.
BronxNet.
And welcome back to the show. Recently, a team of New York City lung cancer experts received a 3-year, $1 million grant from Stand Up to Cancer to bring technology-enabled immunotherapy monitoring to underrepresented patient populations. Now, the question is, what initiatives will they be taking to conduct the study? Joining us now, we're pleased to have the Associate Director of Clinical Science at Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center, Professor of Medicine at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and Director of Multidisciplinary Thoracic Oncology Program at Montefiore, Dr. Balazs Halmos. And Dr. Halmos, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Daren, so much for having us. Look forward to our conversation.
Man, you got a lot of titles there, but I'm glad to have you with us. And I'm
glad
glad
a handful, you did great.
Yeah, I tried that, but no, you got a lot of work ahead of you. And one of the things that you're doing is really working with this grant. And congratulations, 3 years, $1 million. Let's talk about it for a second. What exactly will this grant be able to study?
Thank you so much for allowing us to present our work in a way. It's always exciting to take new research initiatives on. And this is focusing on allowing us to engage, monitor patients better on some of these new medicines. Nowadays, we have all kinds of novel treatments, for patients with a cancer diagnosis, and they can be targeted treatments, going after some molecular changes in the cancer, or immunotherapies. These are really novel treatment options that activate our own immune system to fight the cancer better, but they have downsides as well, just like everything else. There's no free lunch in medicine in a way. So these medicines can overactivate your immune system and they can turn against your own organs, which sounds frightening, leading to inflammation in different parts of the body. So finding those side effects early on can help us manage them better, keep patients on the active medicine for a longer time, and thereby improve the outcome of cancer treatment, these novel cancer treatments that we're so excited to have. And this is exactly what this grant is about. This allows us now to use technology, bring technology to the patient's home, to the underrepresented minority patients of the Bronx, which we are so proud to serve, both African Americans and Hispanic patients, making up 80 to 90% of the patient population that we serve at the Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center. So we're able to offer patients on immunotherapy with a lung cancer diagnosis participation in this program, whereby they can have wearable devices at home that communicate back to our research team as to what's happening with their vital signs, their oxygen level, for example. And they also provide a special app that will educate patients to use, the best, whereby they have 24/7 access to expert nursing assistants to help monitor them, intervene at the time of need, when side effects happen, and maintain, adherence to treatments that can ultimately help improve their outcomes. So we're very excited about this.
Yeah. So what are you actually hoping that will actually come out of this? Because I know you got several issues when it comes to lung cancer. What are you hoping that these issues will be able to address and deal with?
Again, it's improving our ability to monitor, intervene, and then maintain treatment benefit and engage our patients the best possible way, and also learn about how to use these special tools, remote monitoring tools, wearable devices in patient populations where maybe the use of the technology is not that much familiar. Maybe there's language barriers, maybe there's other barriers to break down. So through this learning, hopefully we can inform the larger community as to how to use this type of technology the best for our very diverse patient population.
You speak about use of technology, and that's going to be a key component in what you do. Give us a little insight as to how this technology will really be able to help you, and then consequently also the patients that you're seeing.
Again, if you think about it, using a wearable device, just like you guys, use for fitness activities and so on. If a patient wears that at home and we have access to that information, we can monitor changes over time. And, maybe some of those changes could be concerning. We could learn about that early and we could intervene to make sure that, if there's an issue in terms of side effects, such as lung inflammation leading to lower oxygen levels, we can treat earlier and thereby prevent, severe outcomes. It also allows access again, for patients from home using different apps. And if those apps are difficult, conventional, communication tools such as phones, to this 24/7 expert professional nursing service that eases access again in terms of communication, breaking down any potential issues in terms of lack of access or limited access to optimize patient care.
And so for yourself, I know that it's a lot of work that's going into it. The team is going to be working into it. What does this grant really mean to you? Because a lot of people suffer from lung cancer. A lot of people die from lung cancer. I know that this will give you some more insight, but what does it mean to you to be able to have this grant and to be able to bring this home?
Well, we're very fortunate that this is not the only grant in a way that we have, at the Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center. We have terrific cancer programs, and we're able to offer many, many novel treatments to our patients with different cancer diagnoses, including lung cancer. This adds an extra layer outside just the being able to offer new treatments. Now we're able to deliver them, through the use of technology in more convenient, more accessible, and hopefully safer manner over time.
Yeah. So how do Bronx residents really access the trials, the research, and become a part of the study?
Well, the Montefiore health system is all throughout the Bronx. As you know, every single street corner there's a Montefiore office, so we're not so difficult to find. I think our cancer center is fully integrated, within the institution, the Bronx, and we're doing a better job as of late to engage with our community through all kinds of community events. But of course, if somebody has a cancer diagnosis, getting the proper referral to us, will be important. And we're fortunate enough to have a wide array of, cancer research activities, clinical trials that we could consider. Those are always dependent on the patient's very specific diagnosis, stage of cancer, special, information needed about the cancer. But we have a broad array of those services, from very early phase studies of novel agents to late phase development of really, very promising therapies that we can bring to our patients. Just as an example, now we have a lot of excitement about the cellular therapies called CAR T-cell therapies. And our leukemia teams in the Bronx have been the first in a way to provide information how these special treatments work for the very specific, underrepresented minority populations in the US, both Hispanic and African Americans, and thereby enriching information, not just for the patients of the Bronx, but worldwide.
Can you give me some insight? Because we know that this is about the grant. We talked a lot about the grant, the research that's going to be done. But when we talk about Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center, there's a lot more that meets the eye. You do a great job of promoting information and awareness. Can you give us some insight as to a little bit more as to what the Cancer Center does in terms of awareness, screenings, and making Bronx Heights available the services that you have?
That's a great question, because research is one thing, but we have standard cancer care that we should provide to all of our patients. And on top of that, the best thing we can do is to screen for cancers at an early stage when they are the most curable, and even better, try to prevent them as possible. And our cancer center and the Montefiore health system does all that. And I think we're doing it better and better in terms of educating our communities about prevention efforts, and that can be vaccinations against the HPV virus, that can be, colorectal cancer screening, so colon polyps can be removed before they turn into cancers. And there can also be very specific screenings for cancer, such as a lung cancer screening program, which is now in the community, going to different churches and community centers to educate our patient population the best, so they get access, to this information. They get the preventative and screening strategies early on, so we could prevent them from either getting a diagnosis of cancer or that cancer presenting at a later stage where it's more difficult to treat. But if we face a later stage cancer, luckily we have a very robust cancer center to help patients out and provide them access to even the best novel treatments as well.
Dr. Halmos, so much going on. I want to thank you. Again, they've received a 3-year, $1 million grant to deal with helping to find out about lung cancer and to do some research there. Hopefully we'll be able to have you back to find out the updates and some of your findings.
Thank you so much for the invite there, and I look forward to coming back soon.
All righty. Well, for more information, visit the website, einsteinmed.edu, and then also follow them on social media, Twitter and Instagram at EinsteinMed. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We do have more open. Just taking a quick break, but we'll be right back after this. and welcome back to the show. Since its inception, the Volition America brand has been a growing, ongoing movement of real American patriotism with the defined purpose of supporting those who protect our freedom of choice. Their ideals and patriotic expression transcend cultures, race, gender, age, and or political beliefs. Volition America has a commitment to supporting the children and spouses of fallen American heroes. Joining us now, we're pleased to have with us the CEO of Volition America, John Sapiente. And John, glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and as I said in the intro, you do a good job of really supporting our fallen American heroes. But for those who may not be so familiar with the organization, give us a little bit of background.
Well, the background is fairly interesting, is that in 2013, I was just a regular business owner doing my day job, and I got introduced to Folds of Honor. And at that meeting, I got really aware of what the troops do for us and how fortunate we all are. And it became a passion of mine to support Folds of Honor and the troops. And that was kind of the evolution of Volition America starting later after that. But the introduction of Folds of Honor was the whole reason we did this.
And so for yourself, obviously it's become a passion, trying to help those who are, fallen American heroes. Talk to us about what exactly you do.
Well, let me give you a little backstory of how I got involved. I went to this Folds of Honor event, and I bought a round of golf with Craig Stadler, who's a famous PGA golf pro. And I bought it because I wanted to spend the day and play golf with Craig Stadler. But I ended up spending the weekend, a Memorial Day weekend, with the military and their families. And I call it a patriotic awakening, but really a awareness of what these wonderful families do, what they sacrifice, and how their needs are being not supported after they're coming home. And so for the next 3 or 4 years, I got very active in Folds of Honor. Folds of Honor is an organization that gives scholarships to the family of the fallen soldiers. So we're educating the legacy and helping them for all the sacrifices they make. And so that's the background of how I got involved. And then the brand, if I can have a few more minutes, but the brand is the idea of Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, who's the founder of Folds of Honor. He came to me and said, "Do you know what volition means?" And I kind of laughed and I said, "No." And he calls me SAP, short for Sapiente. He said, "Hey, SAP, it's the power of choice. And you can use your volition to write the legacy of your life. You can choose to be happy, sad, love, hate." He said, "I would like to start a brand called Volition America, choosing America. And a percentage of everything we sell goes back to Folds of Honor." So that really was the evolution of the brand. And really where I came in was I have a background of running businesses, and they asked me to come in with a couple other donors to help start the Volition America brand. And that was 2016.
So you touched upon that. They come home and sometimes their needs are not met. What have you been able to learn, and how have you been able to bridge the gap?
Well, I think Folds of Honor is really bridging the gap. They're the ones taking care of the families that are in need. You're left with these spouses with severely injured soldiers, or the worst case, deceased, and they're left to try to figure it out. And Folds of Honor comes in at the darkest time of their lives and really helps the families and helps them put their lives back together. And so that's really been passionate to me. So what Volition America is doing is really bringing awareness to Folds of Honor and helping it go places it normally wouldn't go. If you look behind me on the third shelf, you can see our logo. Inside of it is the triangle, the folded flag, which is Folds of Honor's logo. And our brand has wings on it. So our logo is wings on the folded flag that help take it places it couldn't normally go. So we're really raising awareness and money for Folds of Honor. And then Folds of Honor has been the vehicle. I think Folds of Honor has given $180 million to the families of the fallen soldiers.
Amazing work. And you want to encourage Americans to make positive choices. I know that's part of the brand's mission.
Yeah.
When you talk about those positive choices, what would you label those as?
Well, it's funny because when we started this, we made a video about what Volition is, and I played it for my kids. And I think it's really interesting because the choices you make, you're right, the legacy of your life. And what we're trying to do, and you can take all the political stuff going on in the news and all the things we talk about, but a lot of the decisions being made in our country that are separating us are just bad choices. And whether it's looting, whether it's storming the Capitol, whatever, we're trying to bring people together through positive choice and respecting. This is, we're not a political brand. And what I really don't like about where we're at as a country right now is patriotism viewed as a political meaning, right or left. And it's not. It's just a love of country. And so what we're telling people is, look, you can be really far left and love your country. You can be really far right. We just want people to make good decisions, listen to the other side, and come together. And so we're trying to unite people through positive choice, and then give back to those that gave us the freedom of choice.
And when you talk about your takeaway, you said you had the experience and you became committed to the cause and you became more aware of what was going on. Talk to me about that. Do you feel as though the more that you're out there, the more that people become aware, the more there's a heart for Americans' fallen heroes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was interesting for me because I think everybody has their own charity or their cause, whether they have a sick parent or Alzheimer's or whatever they're passionate about, kids' health. What really resonated with me with that day in 2013, it was Memorial Day weekend, was that every one of us as Americans are benefiting for the less than 1% that are making this ultimate sacrifice. And that's when it came to like an aha moment for me, was that it made sense, was that we all benefit and we should be helping people that are helping us give us this great life in America. And that was kind of why I got passionate about the charity. And then the more I got involved, the more I met the families, the really amazing people. And that's what motivated me to be part of the Folds of Honor family.
Yeah. So if people want to be connected to supporting the work that goes on and supporting Americans' fallen heroes, the families, how can they go about doing that?
Well, obviously, I'll give it a little plug, but they can buy Volition America clothing, which they can go to our website, volitionamerica.com. We give 13% of our revenue back to Folds of Honor, not profit, revenue. And the reason we picked 13 is there's 13 folds in a folded flag. But that's one way. They can also go to foldsofhonor.org and directly donate, or just support it by wearing it around and support the troops. There's all sorts of great organizations out there.
And you're one of them. John Sapiente.
Thank you.
Volition America, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. It was nice being here.
All righty. Well, we want our viewers to know if you want more information, yes, you can visit their website, volitionamerica.com, and then also follow them on social media at Volition America. We don't want you to go anywhere. We do have more show coming up. Open continues right after this. Welcome back. The Museum for Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, is committed to the crucial mission of educating diverse visitors about Jewish life before, during, and after the Holocaust. Now, the museum recently opened up a major exhibition featuring over 750 original objects and survivor testimonies from the museum's collection. Join us now to share more details. We've got the contributing curator to the Holocaust, What Hate Can Do. We're pleased to be joined by Judy Tydor Baumel-Schwartz. And Judy, thank you so much.
My pleasure to be here with you and tell you a bit more about the exhibition.
Yes, so it's the What Hate Can Do exhibition. And for some people who may not know so much about it, give us a little bit of background as to this exhibition.
Okay, so the exhibition is the new core exhibition of the Museum of Jewish Heritage in New York City. And the purpose of the exhibition, as Daren explained, is we have over 750 objects and hundreds more of graphics, and we've got all sorts of texts on the wall about it. And we also have survivor testimonies of survivors of the Holocaust who will be speaking about their experiences, how they survived. And I think that the title of the exhibition says it all, What Hate Can Do. This is basically a case study of what hate can do to human beings. And that's what makes it relevant to everybody, everywhere, and especially today when we're living in such a climate of hate towards various groups, hate that has absolutely no basis. And so just to show you what happens if it becomes public and it's taken to its horrible final conclusion, that's what the Holocaust was all about. And that's what we're showing. The people who were targeted were the Jews and various other groups who were at that time under the Nazi rule. We're talking about the 1930s and the 1940s in Nazi Germany. And the exhibition shows the development of why were the Jews targeted? Who are these Jews in the first place? And why were they singled out? And it shows that it's based on a very long tradition of hating Jews that goes back for almost 2,000 years. And we show that. We show who the Jews are. We show who the Nazis were, how they came to power, and what happened when they actually had power in a country. That is what is so scary about the Holocaust, because you can say, okay, people have been hated throughout the ages. What makes the Holocaust special? This was the first time that such hatred received government sanction, and that everything that was being done against the Jews, whether it was persecution, whether it was putting them into forced ghettos, whether it was sending them out to forced labor, whether it was putting them into gas chambers and killing them, came with the stamp of approval of the German Nazi government of the time and other collaborating nations and conquered nations. And that's what we're telling the story of, what hate can do. One of the important things that we show is a segment that's called collaborators, bystanders, and upstanders. What's the difference? Collaborators are people who were helping the Nazis in what they were doing for various reasons in killing the Jews and persecuting the Jews. Bystanders, people who are standing at the side, watching what's happening, not doing anything. But the minute they do decide to do something, if they're doing something to try to save innocent persecuted people, they become what's called upstanders. And we've got testimonies, we have video testimonies of people who tried to save Jews, who tried to help persecuted people. And we show what it was like. And using these objects, we tell the stories of individuals. We tell the stories of the people behind the objects. This isn't a history textbook. This isn't going to tell you every little piece of history that has to do with the Holocaust. But here's an example. We've got a beer mug from the 1880s. Goes back a really long way. But what's special about the beer mug? Why are we showing this beer mug, Beer Stein? Because it's got a caricature of a Jew on it. It has this disgusting picture of what a horrible looking, long nose, long beard, twisted face. Did you say, hey, but what does this have to do with persecuting the Jews? Well, this is where it starts with. Somebody buys this and he drinks his beer from it every evening. This is what's called by people dealing with the subject, material culture. And he's holding this and he drinks from it every evening and he looks at it. And we all know that people are attracted sometimes to the horrific, to the horrible. So he's holding the beer mug and he's drinking from it and he's looking at the picture and he's saying, ugh, and each time he drinks. And you know what? One day when a government comes into power that's persecuting the Jews, hey, yeah, of course that makes sense. They're so horrible. I remember it from my beer mug. You could say that's really superficial, but you know what, folks? People can be very superficial. And we show how this whole thing develops and how millions of people followed Hitler as a result and who they were and what they did.
And when we look here in 2022, obviously history is very important. We look back and we say the horrific things that have occurred, and how history has played an important part in shaping today. As audiences are going to have an opportunity to see this, what is the hope that you're having for those who take part in this exhibition, who have an opportunity to view this?
It's a really good question. Daren, I think that one of the most important discussions that we had in our curatorial group over and over again was, what's going to be the takeaway? What do we want people to know when they leave this exhibition? And I think, again, I go back to the title, What Hate Can Do. We want to show that under the right circumstances, right in quotation marks, under the horrific circumstances, it could happen to anybody. A group of people can be turned against another group of people, and you have to be aware of it. The Jews are, as I said, a case study. That means it happened to them, but what happened to them in a variation, because history never repeats itself exactly, but in a variation, it can happen to any other group in any other country. Every human being has to remember that he or she has to be on the lookout in order to be fair, to be honest, not to persecute other people, not to hate other people. It is so easy to be drawn along with a crowd that's yelling and hating and doing, and you're swept away by it. Well, be aware of that. Be aware of the dangers of something like that. Stop. Think about what you're doing. Don't just be drawn into something. Don't just hate. Don't just hate for no reason. And certainly, if this hatred is taking some type of form, don't join. Be careful. Stop other people from doing it. Think. That's the message. It happened once to the Jews, and 6 million Jews were killed over a period of 13 years. Now, today may be disasters that take more people, but wow, in those days, that was a really high proportion. That was a third of an entire nation. And it can happen to anybody. That's the message. Be careful, be aware, learn something from this history, learn to be a better person, learn that you have a job here, to be good people, to do good for the world, not to do bad, and do not persecute other people. Do not hate other people.
Let's give viewers an opportunity to find out where they can participate and watch this exhibition and the times.
Okay, well, the Museum of Jewish Heritage is in the Battery in New York, in Manhattan. And I think that it's open from 10 a.m. I'm trying to remember exactly when. Hold on.
Matter of fact, I got you here, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday and Wednesday.
Right, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday and Wednesday. And go and see it. As much as I can describe it, it's nothing like actually seeing it for yourself.
Well, certainly we want people to take advantage of the experience of knowing a lot of work has gone into this, and certainly to remember where people have come from. And there's often that saying, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And so, Judy, Professor Judy, you definitely have captured that for some of us. Then I hope that people will take advantage of it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you too, and have a wonderful day. All
righty. Well, I want to let you know, if you want more information, don't hesitate to visit the website at mjhnyc.org. Got more show. Don't go anywhere. Open continues right after this. And welcome back. The Universal Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx celebrates and preserves the history of local and global hip hop music and culture to inspire, empower, as well as promote understanding. Well, the museum recently presented its interactive journey called The Revolution of Hip Hop, the Golden Era. And joining me now to share a little bit more details, we got co-curator of the Universal Hip Hop Museum, Pete Nice. Try to say co-curator twice or three times. You might get a little tongue-tied, but Pete, good to have you, my brother.
What's up, yo? Thanks for coming today, and thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
No, I want to thank you. And so talk to us here about what we're seeing. I mean, Hip Hop Museum, a lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time. It's here now. And when we talk about this, I want to get an opportunity for you to talk about the grand opening.
Yeah, the grand opening of the actual museum is 2024. So what we've been doing are like these pop-up exhibitions to give people a little taste of what's coming in 2024. So we started in 2020 with the 70s, then we went to 1980 to 85, and now we're in 1986 to 90, which many consider the golden era. So that's the theme of this exhibition here at Bronx Terminal Market, which is right across the street from the site of the Future Museum, which has already been topped off. The structure's already built. We had the groundbreaking last May, so in a little over a year, the whole building and structure is done. So it's moving along pretty well.
And what have you heard from people? I mean, obviously this is a long time coming, and every year we get a little bit closer. Great progress has been made. Talk to me about what you're hearing from people as the doors are getting closer and closer to opening.
Well, I mean, we just opened this exhibit. We're having premiere week this week. So we've had a lot of people come through to get this taste of the bigger museum, and people have been really excited. A lot of people from the era, a lot of older, you can tell how old you are by the songs that you remember. If you remember, Milk is Chillin', if you remember Public Enemy #1 or Eric B for President. So we've had a lot of people with the nostalgia, but we've had a lot of young people come in as well who are getting acclimated and learning a lot more about the history and what we're trying to preserve here at the museum. So, people are excited for the big museum, and we're getting a lot of excitement for this pop-up exhibit right now.
Yeah, museums always point people back towards history. We know that. And anytime you go to a museum, you see a lot of history. But when we talk about hip hop and the history of hip hop, what is it that you want people to be able to take away when they come out of this museum?
I mean, you look at hip hop as the billion-dollar industry it is today, and all of that started in New York City, primarily here in the Bronx. So first off, we want to honor and document the history of all the pioneers who made this thing we call hip hop actually happen. And then you move into the other eras, like this 1986 to 90 era, where you have so many artists who were groundbreaking, the Rakims of the world, the producers like Prince Paul, Marley Marl, Paul C, all these, historic figures that, have shaped hip hop to what it is today. And I think it's important to teach, the youth and even those who are just, regular fans, casual fans, and those who know nothing about hip hop, to show the influence, the global impact that hip hop has had over these close to 50 years.
Yeah, when you think about, the 80s and this golden era that we're talking about, from 1986 to 1990, a lot of names surface. You got Kool Moe Dee, you've got Houdini, you've got Big Daddy Kane, the Beastie Boys. And I can date back to that because, that was during my era. But when I think about that time, I think about a time when, hip hop wasn't the quote unquote violent, as they say. They were talking about how we were able to bring community together. And it was just great times on the block.
It definitely was. But beyond that, we did have, the death of Scott LaRock back in 1987. And we have some great artifacts here related to Scott's life. We have a letter that he wrote in 1986 to our head curator, Paradise Gray, which was basically a letter in 1986 before Boogie Down Production was even formed. And he's talking about how, him and KRS were getting manipulated and screwed by all these different small record labels and their struggles. And actually they're trying to get on and promote their own thing right before Boogie Down Production started. And then you have, the tragedy of his death in 1987, which we have the news clippings from that. So we have a great exhibit dedicated to Scott. And we even got KRS to actually read the actual letter. So when you see the exhibit and you're looking at the letter and reading it, you can hear KRS actually reciting the whole letter and, you know, following up with some commentary on how this is what hip hop was in 1986, 1987 for groups that were trying to get on. I mean, we also document the seamier side of the record business and how artists were taken advantage of. And I think that's important to, you know, tell the true story as well.
Yeah. You talked about artifacts. I wanted to have a question about that because how are you able to get these artifacts in that are so precious, they're historical, and there's so many people to try to keep up with. So how are you able to compose and compile all of this?
Well, Paradise, our head curator, he actually ran the Latin Quarter back in 86, 87, 88. So he has archives of tremendous material. So that's like the core. I have stuff that I saved as well. But we've had a lot of contributions from people from hip hop, in particular, TR Love from the Ultramatic MCs. He actually loaned us his Dapper Dan jacket from the cover of the classic Critical Beatdown album that they did in 86, 87. And that's on display here, which, I mean, that's just one of the greatest artifacts in hip hop history. Right over my shoulder, you can see that Ultramagnetic jacket, but you can also see Sweet T's, Shirt King's airbrush, you know, original sweatshirt from 1988 that Shirt King Fade created for her back then. So, you know, all the artists have been, you know, contributing, supporting the museum, and it's been great. And it's been a great, you know, help for us to tell the story that we have the artists with their actual artifacts willing to share them. We even have Biz Marquis's rhyme book is up there. Tara, his widow, was nice enough to loan some great items from Biz Marquis's collection. So when you come here, you're going to see some of the highest level artifacts in hip hop history, as well as some of the interactive, you know, additions that we put onto this exhibit.
And when you talk about young people and those who will actually visit the museum, what is the hope that you have as people come through and they see the artifacts, they see the interactive activities and the things that are going to be present there? What do you want people to, when they walk out of those doors, be able to think and say?
I mean, I guess to get a feeling of what that era was like if you didn't live through it, and if you did live through it, to get that nostalgia of what you experienced. And, you know, like even when some artists come in, they look at the Word Up magazines or the Rap Masters magazines, and they remember back when they were a kid. So, you know, that's kind of like the main thing that we've been getting of people coming through that see these objects, they see the videos. Like we have videos from the Apollo Rap Mania show running in here. We have a tribute to Yo MTV Raps, which has a recreation of the Yo set. So we just had someone come in who was originally from Queens and now he's a teacher down in Texas. And he's like, oh, I grew up on Yo MTV Raps. That set, just, he related to it so much. So, you know, and Yo MTV Raps was so important in spreading hip hop throughout the world at that point in the late 80s, early 90s. And, you know, we have Dr. Dre, Ed Lover, T-Money, you know, people like that are going to be coming through here doing programs. And also we have a lot of educational programs, you know, to teach and educate those, you know, who are the younger generation. And it's important to let them know where all this came from.
Yeah. And so if people want to find out more information and support, what do they go about doing?
You can go on uhhm.org. That's where you can reserve your tickets for the exhibition. And pretty much you can find everything on the website. Our social media is UHHM Museum. And we're also on Twitter as well. So there's a lot of like promotions going on right now. And we have a lot of, you know, group promotions as well. And we have a lot of school groups coming through as well. So that's been a big part of the programs that we've had here.
Nice. Co-Curator of the Universal Hip Hop Museum. Thank you, my brother, for being with us, and I'll continue to keep up the great work. We're excited and can't wait.
Definitely. You come out here. We got to see you up in the spot.
We're going to be up there in the spot. That's for sure. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Peace.
All right. P. Dice, our guest here on the show. And listen, want to let you know if you want more information, don't hesitate. Visit the website again. Website, uhhm.org. Follow them also on social media at UHH Museum.
Right, look up Revolution of Hip Hop is where they would get the tickets.
Bet. All right, we'll do. All right, well, we want to let you know we're coming to the end of our show today. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us. Also, you, the viewer, for tuning in. Now, if you missed any part of the show, you can catch the Recablecast on BronxNet Channel 67. If you have Verizon Files, that'd be Channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Also want to thank our viewers who've been watching on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, as Open is broadcast live simultaneously on the MNN channel. If you're looking for a brand new episode, come back on Friday morning. My girl, Rena Valentine, will bring you the best of arts and entertainment. Until then, I am Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.